All right, everybody. So today I have 5 things that I want to talk about in regards to the struggles I've personally had to deal with and seen other people struggle with when they've made that transition into the artist lifestyle. So the first struggle that I've had to realize is the difference between my art and the business of my art. This one is a tough. It's a tough pill to swallow when you first get into the just artist realm. You sit there and you put your heart and soul into this idea, and a lot of the times you're not really thinking about money. You see that goal of being able to live off of your art, but you don't really understand the sacrifices that you have to make in order to get to that point. I was working with an artist. I was doing sound on a project a couple weeks ago, and I had an artist at the end of it. We were all having a beer, just relaxing. All the fans were gone. We're sitting there, and he's like, "Man, it's weird. At this point, I'm a clothes salesman. Like, I play music. People see me play music. They're excited to see me play music, but I use my music to sell my t-shirts." It feels a little disingenuous from my perspective when I'm playing a show, when I realize that people are more interested in a physical product. And I'm sure, in a future video, I would love to invest some time looking into the psychology behind that. And I know we're definitely a capitalist country. I mean, we love our things. We're very materialistic. I can put a lot of time into the art itself, and it should be like that. But in a lot of cases, you almost need a team of people, or at least a couple of friends helping you just work on that monetary idea if you're wanting to be reliant upon your art monetarily. That brings me to my next point. I just said you need to have some friends help you. The point 2 is thinking that you need to do everything alone. A lot of artists, especially when you're a solo artist, you sit there and you feel very self-reliant in your art. But when it comes to the business of art, it's so much. It's absolutely insane how much goes into the marketing and how much goes into the sound design, lighting design, all the things that make you. I'm talking specifically about musicians, but it's seriously with everybody. I mean, the business behind it. There's so many other factors that go into your success that not one person can do it alone. I did have to start transitioning into the mindset that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to let people know that you can't do this all alone. And a lot of times with artists, we want to focus on our art. We don't want to spend all this time doing this behind the scenes, because when you put time into one thing, you have to pull it from somewhere else. And a lot of times that's at the sacrifice of the art itself. If you find people that are willing to help you for either a cheap wage or friends who you're able to give services to, that's what I do. We're starting to build our team, and it's kind of like bartering system, service for service, because it's not like we're making a bunch of money, but at the same time we're building each other up to hopefully one day have this awesome team of people who are constantly looking at the different perspectives of how we can become better artists, but also how we can survive off of those artworks. Point number 3. So this is a point that I learned very early on in my artist career. When I was in choir back in, I'd say in 10th grade, freshly in high school. High school, where I'm from, 10th grade is the first year of high school. It might be different now, but when I was in high school, that's how it was. And my teacher had this saying, practice doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent. And I mean, it was just like, oh, she's just being quirky. She's taking that phrase and just changing it to make it her own. But I didn't know how right she was until later on, especially after high school, where I feel like that phrase really gets into, especially artists' head, where practice makes perfect. And we think that we need to have this perfect artwork before it goes out. And I still struggle with that. Even with this video that you're watching now, I'm sure I'm sitting there editing in the future, my future, but your present. I don't know. When I'm editing this video, when I'm editing anything, when I'm making music, I sit there and I constantly put this pressure on myself to give the best product that I can. And I'm glad I have a team of people behind me at most times that will almost give me that validation that I need. Whether it's them giving me critiques on what I can do better, or I really like that. I mean, that honestly makes me feel like I'm making my product better, even if my product is absolutely terrible and I have friends giving me critiques and telling me what I can do better. I know what I can do better for next time, and that just kind of lights a fire in me, knowing that next time I have things to focus on and things to improve upon. And it's definitely a toxic mindset to think that you need to be perfect all the time. The mess ups are what make the art so unique and so good in the first place. Point number 4, finding your balance between your dreams and reality. I really struggle to not always constantly be thinking of new and interesting ideas. I'm constantly trying to stay ahead of myself almost. Like, I'm not even staying ahead of the game. It's more of just my mind is constantly just thinking of new things, and I always want to try and achieve those ideas if I think they're within reality. My basis for reality is sharing my ideas with people and gauging how real those things can actually become. I'm very lucky to have my best friend that I started my company with, Over the Way Productions. He has been the logical thinker in a lot of ways throughout our entire friendship. I'm usually the one who's like, man, we need to go do that. Let's go take a tour. And like the first year we were a band, I'm like, we should go take a tour in California. It was our first year as a band. We didn't have an album. We had nothing. I don't even think we had a place to put all of our instruments. I didn't have a car at the time. I just wanted to go do this because I had just moved back from California. I'm like, man, we should go on a tour to California. It'd be so cool. I know people. We get to go do this. And when it comes down to it, how logical is that? For even now, I mean, we're 6 years into being a band, and how logical is that idea? Where in the realm of doable is that goal? And nowadays, I honestly, like, that's something I want to push for. That's something that would be a logical idea. But I only found that logic through challenging other people with that idea. And it was never not off the table, but it definitely wasn't an obtainable goal with where we were. And I only realized that by sharing that with people. So again, I mean, that goes back to my third point. I don't know. That goes back to my second point, thinking you need to do everything alone. A lot of times I ground myself, whether it is through my art or through the things that I'm thinking in my head that are stressing me out. Having a good support system is going to absolutely change your game with whatever art you're doing. If you have people you can rely upon, it will absolutely change just how you see your dreams and how you see reality. A lot of those things will become a little bit more apparent. So that brings me to our last point, and honestly, I think the most important one, number 5, having an elitist attitude towards your art style. This is more of an outward expression, mainly because I don't think that I have been like this. I'm very open to having conversations with people about how I am perceived, but also how I perceive other people. Whether that's a musician who is very specific about his genre of music, or a visual artist who has a very specific technique and they don't really go outside of that loop. Somebody who doesn't like to see outside of their norm within their own art style. And I see a lot of people get super frustrated with artists in their direct path just because they're not following this imaginary rule that they have put upon people. They're not willing to be open with how their art is viewed. They don't really care about other people's opinions, and a lot of times they're the most cocky. They're the people who will go into a show or ask for a show, and they're surprised when they don't get picked to do something, and a lot of times it's because of their shitty attitude. And a lot of times for me, it's not even about how good the art is, it's how the art is expressed. And I love dealing with artists when they have just a love for the world. They're coming to share a part of themselves rather than a person who has been taught a very specific way or is clout chasing, or they're just sitting there festering in this like negative space where they don't think anyone else understands them or something, and it's so frustrating. And I don't want to come across as negative towards the opportunities that they get, because you know what, they might deserve them. They really might have worked really, really hard, and I'm only seeing it from one perspective. But it doesn't change the fact that someone has a shitty attitude. You know, you can catch people on bad days. I will agree, and that's why I'm not spreading people's names like that. I'm not trying to defame anybody. That's not my point. It's whoever's getting into the art business. If you go into it with a positive mindset and you surround yourself with some good people, I think you're going to have a much more fun time, because a lot of people are just going to enjoy being around you. The minute that you have this elitist mindset and you're not willing to grow within yourself, thinking that you already know everything. I mean, the only thing that I know inside art and with the rest of life, the only thing that I know is that I know nothing, because there's always going to be somebody who knows something just a little bit more than I do. But thank you guys for coming to this video. Thank you guys for sharing this time with me, and I hope to see you guys in another video. Smash that button right there. And see you next time. Thank you. Whoever starts showing up, thank you for coming down, and thank you for coming down. Such a Midwestern thing to say. Thank you for coming to the channel. Thank you for just being here.